My name is Leah Petrosca. I'm the digital banking manager at NASA Federal Credit Union, based out of Maryland. We're roughly about 244,000 members and about 5.5 billion in assets. My perspective is that the tech side is actually pretty easy in the grand scheme of things. Like it's relatively straightforward to build a digital banking platform, but the people are rare in terms of the team that works behind it. And that to me is really what set Alkami aside, was the people you work with. The organization has a deep desire to understand what your needs are from a strategy perspective and how their platform can support that. So in addition to a really good, awesome platform, I think it really was the teams that we worked with, all the way from sales to, implementation to now, support after the fact. If I'm going to go beyond the people side of things and focus more on the tech, I don't think it could be ignored that Alkami is one of the few digital banking platforms that's been able to scale and refactor itself and grow and still be modern in 2024. It's very difficult when you look at how you build a digital banking platform. And not only that, but how do you support it in the long term when you have to do bug tickets and you have to do support and you have to do server upgrades and you have to do all the non-fun stuff. Seeing that they've been able to make adjustments, make changes, and honestly very openly talk about the challenges and what they need to fix and the plan to fix them is not common in this industry. The platform that we were coming from was relatively old. The three things that we looked for, one was member experience, specifically cross-platform consistency, which kind of seems like table stakes now, but we didn't have that before. Our mobile app looked totally different from desktop. They had totally different feature sets. And so we were really looking for a platform that could be cohesive regardless of what platform you use it on. Second, I would say probably just vendor integrations. The platform we were on, we basically had to do development to keep that platform up and running and somewhat keep pace with the rest of the market. We wanted to go to something where we didn't have to do that all the time. Like it wasn't reliant on us doing dev work to be able to launch things. Alkami's got a very robust integration kind of marketplace that we were happy with. And then the third thing I would say, our opinion very much is that digital banking is kind of a platform for enablement of other things. Like it isn't necessarily like the thing, it gets you to the other things. And to me, that relates very heavily to Alkami's, aggressive roadmap, release structure, update schedule. It's a total shift for us to go from having to be the ones to do the work all the way to now where we're getting monthly releases with new features and bug fixes and all this stuff that are just happening on the platform at large, in addition to new vendor relationships, new features, new integrations. And so it's nice. It's nice to be able to have our own initiatives and then also kind of get caught in the tailwind of all of Alkami's initiatives too. The example I still always love to give is our App Store reviews were like 1.3 and 1.4 stars. I mean, it was rough. And so when we launched and went to Alkami, I think both are sitting at 4.9 stars that have held there, over the last 9-10 months. That's a massive improvement. Think of a new member that hasn't interacted with NASA before. That's one of the first things they see that grades their digital banking is that rating. Since going live, we've been able to create multiple new vendor relationships and add new features, both that are member-facing and not member-facing. Alkami's given us that platform to enable a lot of those things for sure. And they've had a huge impact, both to member experience and back office efficiencies too. On the membership side, I 100% really truly believe that our card management suite is one of the best. And that's just utilizing Alkami's card management suites. We've got the basics, the travel notes, the card lock, the PIN reset, all that stuff. But the way that Alkami does it is very cohesive. And there's very much of a deep focus on making sure that all looks and feels native. It's not a separate app someone has to go to, some SSO that looks different than everything else. It's all baked in really nicely. Part of our engagement in our launch with Alkami was actually working with the Alkami team to build more features for Visa. So we were able to launch not only with card lock from a global standpoint of turning on and off the card, but being able to set alerts and blocks for transaction types or merchant types. And so members can say, no, I don't want this card to be used on web transactions, but I do want it to be able to be used in store because it's with me. We're working on things like digital wallet integration that should be coming later this year so people can, activate digital cards while the card's in the mail. That's one area that I will recommend to almost any credit union that's either considering Alkami or on Alkami, is really take a deep look at the APIs that Alkami has available to you and what things you can do in real time with that. Obviously, one of the most kind of common one is Net Promoter Score. We have member surveys that go out often asking about digital banking. We always take a good look and make sure that that's at the very least maintaining or increasing, which we have seen it do since going live with Alkami, which frankly, coming off a giant digital banking implementation to then see that number improve and actually not have any sort of impact for that big change for members was really, really big. The other thing that we look at too is really how many active users do we have inside the platform versus that total membership count, because that's the folks that are actually actively engaged in the platform, either just doing their basic banking or starting to poke around. That's really, to me, the big one that we're continuing to push and increase is get members active in your environment. A lot of people focus on digital banking as a digital branch, and so you have to think of those people coming into your branch because they want to interact with you. And so you want to keep that branch as busy as it can be. The biggest thing for me is going to be active users to total members, for sure. Again, that's the group that is engaged with you. They're utilizing the platform. They're doing more than just one payment and they're out the door. We want to see that percentage continue to grow, not only with membership growth, but beyond that as well. Part of that is actually going back to members that hadn't used online banking before, or frankly gave us negative feedback about our prior online banking, to say, hey, we changed it. we got a new modern banking platform, and we've gotten that feedback from members. We've had members update their App Store reviews from 1 star to 5 stars because they're like, fine. Which I love to see. They consistently beat out very large bank apps as well that are kind of considered as the gold standard for online banking platforms. So also love to see that. That is a very public way to grade your digital banking. And when you talk about members that are not in your local area or not folks that will normally go into a branch, that's how they're interacting with you. Like, that is your score of how well you do digital banking. And so when you talk about new member growth and you talk about a younger generation joining credit unions or wanting to get them to join credit unions, that metric matters a lot. And 4.9 and or above is honestly where you should be, and Alkami has helped us really enable that. The last one I would say that I watch a lot are login activity, and specifically for who's using desktop versus mobile. It seems kind of basic when you think about it. I would argue that most FIs are primarily mobile over desktop. We were at the time. There's a lot of reasons for that. Our mobile platform was the one that had really bad ratings. People liked desktop more because it had more features than mobile did, and that's not the case anymore. We've seen a huge increase in terms of mobile usage. We're still primarily desktop, but it is very, very much smaller margin than what it used to be. And so we're going to continue to emphasize mobile as the best experience that you can have, just because of security features like push notifications and Face ID and biometric unlock, all the way to the fact that you're not waiting a member to finish their day and sit down at the computer and interact with you. They're interacting with you on mobile. You're becoming a part of their day, not the other way around. And so it gives you much more frequent touch points. It creates a very engaged, active user inside of your digital banking platform. I'll start with the sales experience. If you're going to go with Alkami or work through it with Alkami, you're going to have a sales guy, and then you're going to have a sales engineer with you. And for us, that was Chaz and Mark, and that team was probably the best duo that I've dealt with from a sales perspective. It got to the point where I was able to hop on phone calls on my cell. I was able to text them and ask questions. It didn't matter. They were very invested, and it never felt like I was getting sold a piece of software that it was like, hey, here you go, you're done, goodbye. It was much deeper about what are you trying to do? What things are important to you? Is it business banking or is it not business banking? And if the answer is no, we're not going to sell you on business banking. There was a lot of freedom in being able to see not only the Alkami platform, but how does it fit into your larger strategies as an organization? And so that, to me, was huge during the sales cycle. So transitioned then into the implementation side of things. And so we had our project manager, Christine, our TC, Sam, and then our launch engineer, Lindsay. Honestly, it's one of those things where you kind of, I'll bluntly say, like, you go through the sales cycle and you're like, oh, I dealt with 2 great people, like, it's awesome. And then like, you're kind of waiting for like that to be part of the sales experience like that. And you're like, okay, like now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. And there was no change in the level of, interaction and frankly, like partnership that we had there. Implementations are super detailed. It's a lot to work through, but the attitude was the same. It was very much like, what do you want to get out of this platform? How do you want to configure it? What can we do for you? What customizations can we make to make sure that it does the things that you want it to do? And it was just an outstanding team. And when I think about, frankly, things that kind of went above and beyond, there were a group of us that went on site to Plano when we went live. Like we were fully remote. And so we just ended up coming to Texas instead and doing our launch from Alkami's headquarters. And those same 3 folks, Lindsay, Sam, and Christine, were also remote. All of them flew in for the go live. We were there for 5 days in, kind of a boardroom type scenario. And people were constantly in that office being able to see like, hey, I heard you guys are here. How can I help? Like, I can't even tell you how many people on the Alkami team, I had no idea who they were. And they were just coming in to be like, what do you guys need? Like, do you have a question? Can I help? That was huge to us. That was an outstanding way to come off of the go live, was that week in Plano. And I think that made a huge difference. And then now you move into post-launch support, and we've got Byron and Artem, who are our customer success rep and our sales manager, and it's still the same. It sounds redundant, but it is the truth. Like, I still can text either one of them, I can email them, ask questions. You wait for it to change, and it just doesn't, because everyone at Alkami is interested in what they can do for you and how they can actually fit in as a much larger partner than just a digital banking platform. It is not just a piece of software. It is a genuine partnership with that organization, and it has always felt that way.